I know a little something about health. I mean, I know that parents just want you to be healthy, but my mom takes it to a new extreme. See, my mom always prided herself on being a health nut. I never ate processed sugar or even meat. I grew up on all organic and vegan foods. I remember this one time she tried to throw a birthday party for me and she made a cake out of tofu, salad dressing, and carrots. One of the kids literally threw up. Things didn't get any better as I got older either. One time, she packed me an organic lunch, and it smelled so bad they evacuated the class. The principal thought it was a gas leak. It was actually just my smelly cabbage casserole. But her fitness obsession wasn't the only freaky thing about her. You would not believe the crazy things she did to stay up with the latest trends. She literally embarrassed herself and me on national television. I didn't legally change my name for no reason. She went through phases faster than a middle school girl. One day, she'd be dressed all preppy and sporty. The next, she was going out looking like a goth. One time, when I was 6, I went to a friend's place for a sleepover. And when I came home, I didn't recognize my own mom. I cried so hard because I thought my mom had left me. I used to think that her worst phase was the time her friend convinced her to join a cult. She actually shaved her head and painted her skin green. But boy, was I wrong. That wasn't a patch on what I'm going to tell you next. The worst thing was that the person behind my misery wasn't a creep with green skin. This time, it was a seemingly harmless lady with a sweet smile. So I really didn't see it coming. Even worse, I may have brought them together. I was an aspiring singer and actress, and I often performed at the community center and local theater. My mom met her at one of my performances and immediately became her best friend. She was calm and relaxed. I was actually pretty relieved about my mom meeting someone who was actually normal. So I encouraged mom to invite her over to dinner one night. Oh, how I cursed my stars for that moment! Because when her friend came over, mom put out a nice spread of salads using vegetables from her own garden. She was certain she'd impress her friend, but her yogi friend stuck up her nose and gagged with disgust. I thought you were healthy, she sneered. I practically choked on the bean sprout I popped in my mouth. She went on to list all the dangers of food and talked about how the government can track you through carrots and that there are magic spells in nuts. My mom nearly died of embarrassment. I burst out laughing. I thought she was kidding at first. I asked her if she didn't eat food, then what does she eat? Apparently, she had been waiting for someone to ask because she whipped out a suitcase full of tablets. She explained that she was the CEO of a special company that sold the only safe things to eat on the market. I told her she was insane. But guess who bought it all? Yep, my mom. Seriously? I know you're friends and all, but $1,000? I asked. I told my mom it was a scam, but she was super positive that this was the food of the future. In fact, she even got so paranoid about government tracking that she made me wear a hat made of tinfoil that, you guessed it, was sold to her by her yogi friend. I figured it would blow over in a few days, like her last few phases. But I was very, very wrong. The next evening, when we sat down for a meal, she poured those stupid tablets on my plate. I asked her to make me a sandwich, and you would have thought I'd slapped her. She glared at me and refused to give me anything else. She said there was no way on earth she could do me such harm. In fact, she said she would throw away all our food. For the next month, I lived off of granola bars and vegetables I stole from the garden. I even ordered one of those snack boxes and hid all the chips in my room. I would literally drool whenever I saw a commercial for McDonald's or Pizza Hut on the TV. My mom, though, she seemed perfectly content eating those stupid tablets. One day, I'd had enough and decided to have a real meal. One of my biggest crushes, Bruce, had asked me out on a date the day before, and I texted him that I was ready to be picked up immediately. I let my mom know I was going out and ran out the door before she could say anything. I hopped in his car and told him I wanted to go anywhere. I was starving. My phone was blowing up with tons of warnings about staying away from food and how I forgot my special hat. It was so annoying that I shut off my phone so she wouldn't wreck my evening. But to be honest, I managed to ruin my day all by myself. He kept trying to make deep conversation and connect with me. Unfortunately, my body had a mind of its own. See, every time it was my turn to talk, my stomach would growl. I tried shifting in my seat to make it look like it was just the chair squeaking, but it was obvious that sound was coming from me. I just hoped he didn't think I was farting on our first date. I was so embarrassed. And to make matters worse, He seemed embarrassed for me. He was going to take me to the movies, but when he saw how much my stomach was growling, he asked if I wanted some real food. I never nodded so hard in my life. He took me to a pizza place all my classmates hung out at. Due to my mom's obsession with healthy food, I'd never eaten pizza before, and I couldn't be more excited. I didn't know if I was more excited to see Bruce or the pizza he took me out for. By the time our food came out, I was drooling. I literally had a puddle on my new top. It was actually pretty embarrassing when Bruce asked me if I'd spilled water on my shirt. But my evening was about to get even worse. Just as I was about to bite into the juiciest slice of pizza I'd ever seen, someone slapped it out of my hand. I almost cried as I watched the pizza fall to the floor. I whipped around and saw that my mom was there, and she was furious. I wanted to scream. Then, to make matters worse, she started shouting at me. She went on this long rant about how crazy and idiotic I was to eat food after I'd heard about the spells in the tracker. She kept trying to hand me the stupid metal hat, which ruined my hair and made me look like an insane robot. "Who is this crazy lady?" Bruce asked. "I would be her mother, young man," she shouted back. I wanted to crawl under the table, and that's exactly what I did. My hiding was rather short-lived as my mother dragged me out from under the table and pulled me back to her car. I had a feeling I wasn't going to get asked on a second date. To be honest, I was sadder about leaving the pizza behind. After that, Mom strengthened her iron fist. As I ran out of snacks, I grew hungrier by the day. This was bad news all around. See, if I get too hungry, I get hangry. I get mad and moody and snap at everything. I just wanted to eat real food. My mom saw I was upset and decided to surprise me with the news that I'd been called back for an audition I was particularly hyped about. I was glad, but at this point, I'd be happier if I got an apple. What I wouldn't do for a nice, juicy apple. To my utter disgust, my mom even brought her stupid yogi friend to watch in the audience. My mom said it was for support, but I could see her friend was looking to sell her dumb products to anyone she ran into. Today is not about that, though, I told myself. Today is about me. I was excited, but something felt off. I told my mom I was starving, and she just gave me a new round of tablets. They looked a little different from the ones I'd taken before, but I was too tired to even question it. Unfortunately, when it was my time to walk up and perform, I wasn't as prepared as I wanted to be. As I walked on the stage waving to the camera, I lost my balance from dizziness and tripped. If falling wasn't bad enough, I literally crashed into the musicians and even broke a guitar. Everyone started booing me. I stood up to try to show them my skills and make up for my blunder, but my stars had something else in store for me. I projectile vomited all over the crowd. I ran backstage without even seeing, as if I could now. I wanted this day to end, but judging by the numbers of cameras pointing at me, I wasn't forgetting this day anytime soon. I also was not talking to my mom anytime soon. This was totally her fault. I ran out of the hall. Thankfully, Mom was nowhere to be seen. I decided to go and get myself something to eat from the McDonald's across the street. It was trashy, but I deserved a burger right about now. When I walked through the door, I shrieked. It was my mom. She was sitting by herself at a corner table and had a hamburger half jammed into her mouth. I couldn't believe it. I ran straight over to her. "So the pill diet isn't good enough for you, but it's good enough to ruin my life?" Horrified, my mom asked why I wasn't on stage. She obviously hadn't even bothered to watch me. Instead of supporting me, she was cheating on the diet she forced on me. She said she could explain, and it was just a one-time moment of weakness. But no way was I buying that story. I was so disgusted. I decided I would rather starve than talk to her. But that's when I remembered. I was on the other side of town, and I was starving. I realized that my last hope was the only person I never wanted to face again. My stomach grumbled, and I knew I didn't have a choice. I made the call. Bruce came surprisingly fast. Turns out, he had come to watch me. Instead of laughing or making fun of me, though, he was super sweet. He even stopped and got me a milkshake so we could hang out. He then brought me to my empty house, where I packed up all my stuff and went to live with Bruce. I was done with whatever crazy things my mom had going on. I even filled out paperwork to legally change my name, so I would never have to be associated with that embarrassment who puked all over the stage. Bruce took me out on a date to take my mind off of everything. We decided to check out this fancy place that opened up on the other side of town. When we walked in, I saw someone fall out of the chair and break a glass. I ran over to help. And who did I see? None other than my mom. Again? One time weakness my butt. She had seen me walk in and was hiding from me. That's when I saw what she had on her plate. A steak! Was this what she always did? This time I wasn't going to ignore her. I was furious. She was such a hypocrite. She begged and pleaded to explain why she did what she did. She said that when she was my age, she struggled with body image issues and had lost a big break because she had binged on junk food and gotten deathly sick right before an audition. Quite ironic, I thought, given that I'd ended up doing the same trying to starve myself. She said she thought that if she raised me on a strict diet to stay lean and thin, I would be successful and not miss my chance just because of bad eating habits. There was just one small problem. She couldn't lead by example, so she would go out and buy hamburgers and fries in private. Unfortunately, though, my problems didn't end there. Even after we made up, I couldn't go back home. My mom lost her house because of how expensive her friends' treatments were. Between tablets and crazy privacy devices, she was over $300K in debt. I nearly fainted when she said that. Sure, we weren't poor, but we weren't that well off to just throw away hundreds of thousands of dollars like that. I demanded that my mom go and confront her yogi friend immediately because we were getting our money back. This was actually the first time my mom was going to visit her home. I imagined the smelly hippie living in a trailer park or a tent in someone's backyard. This lady was living like a queen. She had a huge mansion covered with gold statues and a giant fountain. When we knocked on the door, a butler answered. We asked if it was the right place, and he said it certainly was. Only problem was that just a few hours ago, the police had taken her away. The police? We were in shock. We drove down to the station and joined a large group of people out front. When we asked what the big crowd was for, it turned out they were all also looking for the lady. That yogi lady scammed hundreds of people out of millions of dollars. Sometimes she was a nun selling magical holy water that she scooped out of the sewers. Other times she was a hippie that sold dog pills as supplements. Hearing that I had spent months eating nothing but dog pills made me almost projectile vomit on the crowd. If nothing else, this story has a bit of a happy ending. See, we ended up getting $2 million in our settlement case against her. It was more than enough for my mom to get a new house and me to start my career as an actress. I'm grown up and moved out now, but I do meet my mom for a weekly dinner. She still tries to be healthy, but in a good way. I like to say that she learned her lesson about being gullible, but she just asked me and my now boyfriend to come to some mysterious spa that will change my life forever. Wish me luck.